Alright, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video. This video is all about Jupiter is placed in the 8th house. What happens as per Vedic Astrology? So Jupiter is the planet of longevity. Jupiter is the planet of abundance. Jupiter is the planet of prosperity. Jupiter is the planet of wealth. Jupiter is the planet of expansion and progress. Okay, and Jupiter is the Karaka for marriage as well. And 8th house talks about your sudden ups and downs. 8th house talks about misfortune. 8th house talks about longevity. 8th house talks about your relationship with your in-laws. 8th house talks about support from the government, bank loans. All this can be seen from the 8th house. 8th house also talks about sins. And Sage Parashara says 8th house talks about debts as well. And also enmity, sudden secret enemies, calamities, stealing, obstacles I mentioned already, and also longevity, obviously, accusations, scandals, and interest in occult sciences. All right, and diseases of secret parts and generative system also talks about eighth house. So basically, what happens if the benefic planet like Jupiter comes into the eighth house? So let me tell you a yoga that is formed called as Asura Yoga, wherein which you'll be doing some acts which are ignoble but pretends to be noble. But if at all, depending upon the Jupiter's placement, Jupiter, if it is weaker, obviously he'll be giving the negative results. And what are the significators which I have told you right now? That will turn out to be negative. If at all Jupiter is aspected by Venus, or if Jupiter is sitting very strongly in the birth chart, if it's not debilitated, if it is exalted like Cancer, obviously you'll be getting a sudden rise in the life, and you'll be getting very good respect in the society, and also your grandchildren also will be of very highly educated, and they will respect you for your knowledge, and you will become a role model for your grandchildren, because your eighth house talks about your grandchildren, and also your grandfather and grandmother. All those stuff can be seen from the eighth house. All right, so benefic planet like Jupiter staying in the eighth house is considered as positive, but at the same time, with regards to the finances, okay, Jupiter is aspecting to the second house of speech and finances. Obviously, it will be good. But if at all any planet like Rahu or Ketu is aspecting to Jupiter, or if Rahu, Ketu are hemmed for the Jupiter, obviously Jupiter becomes the weaker, and that will also create issues in the finances. All right. So the horoscope has to be carefully analyzed with the planetary alignment, whether the Jupiter is only placed stronger in the birth chart, or else Jupiter got weaker because of the malefic influence in the birth chart. All those things has to be thoroughly checked before giving the final prediction. So just Jupiter in the eighth house, obviously I can say it is neutral, because the Asura Yoga is forming there, so which makes you to do some kind of evil acts, and obviously will be caught for those evil acts, of course, because eighth house talks about scandals and all that stuff as well, calamities, and sudden ups and downs, all that stuff, challenges, obstacles, all those things comes you, provided if at all you are undergoing the dasha of the eighth house. If at all you are not undergoing it in dasha of the eighth house, or you are not under the planetary period of eighth house, obviously there won't be any issues. You don't need to worry so much about eighth house, because there are a lot of good yogas in the birth chart. Of course, the second house, fifth house, ninth house, 10th house, as well as 11th house, or these planets will be giving you the Raja Yogas. These planets will be providing you enough of wealth, respect, and social status. So you don't need to worry, and don't take only one house into the consideration and then comes into the final prediction. That is the wrong way of giving the prediction. You have to analyze the birth chart. The birth chart will be having 12 compartments, and all the planets seated in the birth chart has to be analyzed, and we need to see what is the Shadbhala score, what is the Ashtaka Varga score, and where are the nakshatra lots are seated, okay, and which zodiac signs these planets are seated, whether they are exalted or debilitated. All these things has to be thoroughly analyzed, and then only we have to give the final prediction. Eighth house is not the only house in the birth chart. Please understand that. All right. So don't need to panic if at all you have afflictions. Obviously, there will be some good yogas as well. So that is what. So if at all you get astrological consultation, what will happen is you'll be getting the SWOT analysis pertaining to your birth chart. All right. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? And what are the threats? All these things has to be thoroughly analyzed, and then we need to give the final prediction accordingly. All right. Of course, I provide my analysis in that way. All right. You need to figure out what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, and what are the most likely threats. And based on that, we need to provide some recommendations to the client so that he can able to adopt that life in a fruitful manner. All right. So thank you so much for watching this video. If at all you need my astrological consultations, the link is mentioned in the description section. Do book for an astrological consultation. Once I get a consultation order, I'll be able to help you with the complete analysis pertaining to your individual birth chart. It will enable me to check your birth chart for 2 to 3 hours, and then I can able to provide you the final prediction. Based on that, you can, and also I'll be providing some recommendations based upon my knowledge so that you can adopt those recommendations in your life. All right. So I'll see you in the consultation. Bye for now.